learners, welcome to Try Right. Now moving further for the fundamental programming structures. In the first topic, we will move to the variables and data types. Now what are these variables? They are the containers. Variables are the containers that hold data which can change during program execution. The container value can change during program executions. These are called variables. Like int age equals 25. Int age equals 25. Here, age is a variable. Age is a variable because the value of age can change. We can change the value of age from 25, 26, 26 to 27 or anything as according to our need. Suppose you have the string name. String is the data type. String is the data type, and int is the data type here. As int is the data type here, so string is the data type, and the name. It is the variable, and here for the variable we are assigning the value Rohit. We should be written between double quotes. Why? Because it's of string type. Int and string are their data types. Int and string, int and string, int and string. They are the data types because they define the type of data that are stored in these variables. The first is integer value and other is a string value. And age and name are the variable name. Age, similarly we have talked about it, that age and name are the variable names because their value can be changed. Now syntax for variable declarations. Now syntax for variable declarations. Firstly, we have to write the data types. Data types followed by the variable name equals value. Followed by the variable names equals value. So here, so coming further, we have the data types. First the data types, followed by the variable name of the variable marks, and the value. Value is 90. It's of integer data type. It's of integer data type. Similarly, double is the data type, and following that price is the variable name, and the value is 999.99. Similarly, boolean is the data type, and is passed is the variable name, and true is the value. Yeah. Now types of data types in Java. We have different data types. Now basically these data types are categorized into two types, like the primitive type and non-primitive type. Primitive type consists of eight types. Primitive data types, why? Because they are the inbuilt data types. They are the inbuilt data types which cannot be changed or derived. They are the pre-built. They are the inbuilt. But they have their own values. You cannot drive others to the primitive values. Like you have the types, size, and example are here. You have the byte. 1 byte equals 10 bits. 10 bits. 1 byte equals 10 bits. Short. 2 bytes equal 2 bytes. 2 bytes. Size is 2 bytes. Short equals 2 byte. Byte equal 1 byte. Byte consists of 1 byte only. Short consists of 2 bytes. And int consists of 4 bytes. And long consists of 8 bytes. 1 byte equals 1 byte, and short consists of 2 bytes, and this int consists of 4 bytes. Similarly, long consists of 8 bytes. Similarly, all the data types as mentioned here, they have their different values depending upon those bytes. Now we use L for long, we use L for long, and we use a small f for floating values, and double quote for for string type. We use double quote for a string, that is a class, that is string is a class, and single quote for these characters. Hmm. Now coming further to this reference type, we have the reference of objects, arrays, and classes and interfaces. You can, by these references, you can call or direct other values to in this arrays, classes, and interfaces. For example, string, which is a class, scanner is a class, and array list. These are all the classes. Yeah, array list is an interface. Array list is an interface. Similarly, coming to the name, which is the variable. Name is a variable. String. Earlier we have a name as Rohit. Now here the name is of a string type and is containing variable Ria. So there are differences between memory locations, not the actual value. References types point to memory reference locations. These references means memory location values. References, we tell it to the memory location value, not the actual value. Like Ria is the actual value. which is saved in the memory locations, like it should be 101, this name should be given 101, 102, anything like local memory locations. And after moving further, we will be getting to know the examples of each data types. Examples of each data types. Now, as for age of person can be only integer value. Why? Because we cannot define age as decimal values. Suppose your age is 30, it can be 12, but it should be a perfect integer. Anything as a whole number. Yeah, like 11, 12, 13, 14, something like this. Now coming to the count temperatures. Temperature. They can have decimal parts. We know that Celsius, that's like temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. They have the floating points. They have the floating points like 36.5, 37.8, 88.9, F, F, L. These are the floating point. They have the floating point. Floating point. Matlab decimal. After the decimal, there you have a value. So here for floating use f, small f. For long use capital L. And boolean, which signifies for two values, 0 or 1, which can be either true or false. It can be either true or false. Like for the boolean is on you have the true value, on you have the true value, and off you have the false value. On stands for 1 and off stands for 0. Boolean is true is here the name of the data type is boolean. Here the data type is boolean. Here the data type, yeah, we have the data types as boolean. And is on is the variable which is having the value true, or it can be false, having the value false. Yeah. Now moving on to single letter grade. Now grade A, B, C. These are all grades. They can be a single letter only, and they should be in character. They are of characters data type, characters data types. They are of character data types, and the grade, which is the variable. Grade is a variable which whose value can be different, and the value here is P, which is and it is between single quotes only. Now moving further, we will be seeing the string type of string. Yeah, string consists of a data type. String is a data type. String is a data type, and the name, which is a reference. As we have earlier, we have seen the name is Ria, and now here the name is Rahul. Or before it was Rohit. So variables have their name, which will be changing. Which variables have the value variables. Name is the value. Name is a variable which is having a value which can be changed according to our need. Yeah, big decimals used in finance. Yeah, they are used in finance, but they avoid floating and double values. They avoid floating and double data types. They are the big integers value. They are the big decimal points. So they will be using big values. Now variable rules and namings. We have a different rules for naming the variables. So the naming of the variables can be varied because we have the different names. Here the first letter should be small letter. Here the name is first name starts with small n and n variable and name variable n. So it's starting with small n. Variable letter should be starting with n. It can have comma. It should start with comma. You can start with comma or dollar sign. You can start the name with comma or dollar sign also. There should be no Java keywords. It shouldn't be a keyword like string, small string. You cannot use that string, capital string, and a string after following that string. That will be wrong. Integer, string, int, that will be wrong. Int is a keyword, and they are case sensitive. Case sensitive means first letter always it should be small case. It should start with a small case letter. Yeah. Now coming on to the in total marks. In total marks. For example, we have the in total marks here. This is valid. Why? Because after the first small letter, you can have any subsequent as capital letter. Subsequent following the first letter, small letter, you can have subsequent any number of capital letters. Yeah. Here in this variable, there is in their data type and second score. Now second, here you have the beginning letter as numerical part. This is wrong. You shouldn't be considering any numerical part in the beginning. This is wrong. You should can have small s, small a. Yeah. Now int class. This class is a keyword. Class is a keyword. You already know that public class. So class, public following the class which is a keyword here. So it can't be a variable name. Yeah. Now coming further, you have the default values. We have the default values for integer. If you don't assign a value, the initial value or default value will be taken as 0. For floating you have 0.0f. If you don't assign a value, that will be having 0.0 value as the initial value. Now boolean the initial value is false. Suppose you are not assigning any value, so initial value taken as false. And for char you have single quotes slash u tetra 0. This is the boolean value for the character value. Reference types are null. Reference types. Suppose if I take a reference type that if you don't take any reference, so that will be defined as null. Yeah, because we haven't taken any reference, so that in case of reference you can take the value as null. Hmm. Local variables must be initialized. For using a local variable, suppose if you want to give a local variable value 9, 10, 11, 12, we can apply any given value. But if we are not initializing that, so initial value should be a initialized value. So use that value you should be always initialized before use. Before using that, we should always initializing that. Why? Because if you're not initializing, that will consider as wrong. Because why? Because you have to initialize that. Because before initializing, you can't use that local variable. Because suppose if you have to use somewhere 9, you have to use value of pi, yeah, that pi value should be initialized because it has a value, and it's for using that value it should be already be initialized. Because without initializing that value, how can you use that value pi? You cannot use that correct variable value pi. Now coming to this type conversion, this type conversion, that is casting. Type conversion is also referred as casting. That can be automatic, or that automatic which stands for widening or narrowing, or widening or narrowing. There can be two type of casting. That will be, one will be widening and other will be narrowing. Widening, the conversion of smaller data types into bigger data types like integer, which is having lower value size. We have seen that lower value size like here. Yeah, integer which is having 4 byte value and double is having 8 byte value. So conversion of this lower memory range into higher memory range, that is lower data types into higher data types, that is called widening. Conversion of lower data types into higher data type is called widening. Hmm. For int a, like int is the data types and a is the variable. Int a is equals 10. Now we are converting this a to double type. It can be easily converted without loss or anything. This will be having this can store much and more value. We are assigning this int to double type. Now we are assigning this int d. Suppose we are having giving this value to the d, int d, because d is having more space. It is having 4 byte memory. D can store this a which is having 2 byte memory. Yeah, we have seen here. Yeah, no, sorry, the int was having 4 byte memory and double was having 8 byte memory. Yeah, so 8 byte memory, it can store 4 byte memory because it is having four extra spaces which it can add to it. So this double can accumulate all the values of the int. Yeah, that's so likely it goes to be widening values. Huh. And now coming to this widening, yeah. So double D can contain the value of A, and similarly we have narrowing, that is called manual. Automatic is automatic widening is automatic, and narrowing is manual. We have to forcefully do that. Forcefully do that. So it is manual. And now like double D, which is having 8 bytes of memory, is having 10.5 value. Here it is having 10.5 value. If you convert this into integer, it will be compressed. Because having very double D has having high 8 byte memory, and you will be assigning it to 4 byte memory. That means that you are compressing the value. So when compressing, you have to forcefully mention that we have to typecast that value into integer data type, and int a is the value which is storing that converted value. Int a which is storing that converted value, that is to type integer data type. You have to purposely mention that integer data type in the beginning, within the parenthesis, and having the double value d which is the original value, double d 10.5, which is having the original value, and now when it will be compressed and finally it will be converted to integer value. So it will be compressed, so all this decimal part will be removed out of this, and only the integer part will be counted. So now narrowing, basically basically it helps in the loss of data. Basically it helps in the loss of data due to the compression part. uh, Now coming to this variable exercises, we can form that different age name have different data types, and we can have exercise forms, and we can name the different data types for all these variables. And now converting this pi value 3.14, convert this to integer. If you will convert this into integer, the decimal part will be lost, and the decimal part will be lost, and it will be shortened to three values. Yeah, very well. Now, if you have this program, if you have the program, like you have the name, system.out.println name, you have to write name. So this is the variable name, this is the variable name, whatever the value it will be storing it here in the variable name, it will be printed out. But before to that printing, this is the message, message, double quotes name, double quotes name, semicolon, double quotes name, colon. Yeah, name colon, this is the message. Anything written between double quotes is the message. And following the name, this name will have some value. This name will have some value, which will be proceeded after this name message. Now we'll make. Now we'll. Thanks. Thanks now.